My Lord, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you and welcome to House of Parliament. Two apologies. I think it is much better if you sit on this side. It is much better. You want to sit on this side, okay. I think today we are, I always say that the people who lived their life and great people who have done a lot of work, like Tony Benn, we should not mourn them, but we should celebrate them. And we should celebrate their work as well. And one best thing to remember people like Tony Benn is to continue with the ideology and politics they have started, and they have lived for it for whole of their lives. I'm very pleased and thankful that because of a military dictator, General Ziaul Haq, and my love for democracy, I was forced to leave the country in 1981 and became a refugee in the United Kingdom. And the person who I was told to get in touch when I reached London was Tony Benn. And because I was working in the IA, I was a trade unionist, he introduced me to International Trade Union Federation and then ILO. And that was the day since we worked together. And this is his last memoir to just confirm my work with him and my relation with him. If you buy this, it is from 2001 to 2007 when he retired from the Parliament. And his last speech was that I want to retire from Parliament to do more politics. And I can assure you, he did much more politics during those 7 years and wrote these diaries on his work. Tony Benn, More Time for Politics. And in this book, he has mentioned Third World Solidarity and myself many times. And he mentioned a couple of things which I want to share with you. One was, today there is an elder group in which Nelson Mandela started it, and today in which Jimmy Carter, Barrister Jilani from Pakistan, and many other world leaders are in it, which are working for peace in the world. And I think today we need peace more than ever in the world, because you can see what sort of conflict and fights are going on from Ethiopia to Cuba, from Kashmir to Palestine, and we can see it everywhere. And we human beings are being pushed to see the atrocities because of these wars and conflict happening to the human beings like you and me, whether they are Muslim, Christian, Jews, or whosoever. We have no distinction. We are human beings and we should see these difficulties. I think Tony Benn was from very elite class. His father was a foreign minister when India and Pakistan became independent in 1947, and he was minister for particular that period. He became MP. He fought the Second World War. His other brother was killed. And when he became MP, he denounced his background, his elite, and his Anthony Wedgwood Benn. He said, I am simply Tony Benn. I was very lucky because when I moved to England, I moved about 400 yards from his house, so we were living very nearby. And I saw him campaigning and his love to the people, and people loved him as well, was extremely, you can only imagine it. I have seen it. He has mentioned us, as I said. He has also mentioned a meeting in which the poem was read, and I will ask Mahmood in a minute to read it. Before him, I have to ask His Excellency the Best of Palestine to speak. But I think one thing I can assure you, Tony Benn has 4 children, 3 sons and a daughter. But I believe the people of Tony Benn's stature have many children in the world, irrespective of their blood relation, because they belong to their ideology, their politics. And I think people like Tony Benn are missed today, because we need people like Tony Benn in these difficult times toward humanity, because he always stood for principle, he always was honest, he always was straightforward, he always raised the issue of the poor and downtrodden people. although he didn't belong to that class. And I think people of that stature will be remembered and should be remembered, and we are here today celebrating his life. As His Excellency Ambassador of Palestine has to go to another event, and I'm really thankful to him and others who have come on time, and he came on dot at 6:30. Although we have said in our leaflet that it is from 6:30 for 7, and I told him, can you stay till 7? And he said yes. So I'm going to ask him to speak about Tony Benn and also mention his causes and the difficulties Palestinians are facing. Can I request His Excellency Professor Manuel Hssassian to speak on Tony Benn's memorial meeting of third anniversary of Tony Benn? Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, I can never say no to Mushtaq Lasharire. Because I do believe in what he believes in, and his convictions and his values are compatible with mine. And I have never seen a human being so passionate about the third world and about Palestine in particular. And I do share many things with Mushtaq when it comes to human rights, when it comes to self-determination, when it comes to the downtrodden people that you have mentioned and their struggle, you know, for their human rights and what have you. I came to this country 10 years ago, and I met Tony Benn, of course, in the parliament. And he was one of the most outstanding speakers, like Lord Ahmed, on Palestine. I was embarrassed to be the Palestinian ambassador next to this giant who spoke so passionately about Palestine. I said, I have a lot to learn from this man. And when he spoke about Palestine, he was more Palestinian than the Palestinians themselves, because he believed that there is a historic and moral injustice befell upon the Palestinians. And he believes that the British government, back in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration and the British Mandate, owes it to the Palestinians in creating a Palestinian state. As the Balfour Declaration promised a national home, and by 1948, when the British, mandate withdrew from Palestine 47, we saw the birth of the state of Israel. And from 1948 till today, we're asking the British government to recognize the state of Palestine. So if you understand and you believe that there should be a two-state solution, then how on earth you recognize one and you don't recognize the other? And if there are disputes to settle, then those disputes will be settled in the United Nations, state versus state. And this was basically one of the major ideas of Tony Benn. Of course, Tony Benn is a humanist. He's a leftist, although he comes from a high middle class, but he always championed the cause of the wretched, the downtrodden, the people who were deprived. And of course, he always used the Palestinian issue, as an issue of struggle for self-determination and what have you. And as I said, I used to be tongue-tied in front of this man when he spoke about, Palestine. The passion that he has, regardless who was in control, whether Arafat or the President Abu Mazen, for him, what really prompted him to speak so passionately is the steadfastness and the struggle of the Palestinian people. So he was a man of the people, and that's why we thought, when he was in Parliament, of course, and then as a politician, we always, looked at him as a safety valve for the Palestinians and for championing their cause. And every time there was an event in the Parliament, we made sure that Tony Benn invites me or invites my predecessor, Lord Ahmed knows Hafif Safi. And of course, there is much to say about Tony Benn, and I don't want to be redundant, but it is unfortunate today that, as I always say, Palestinians and Israelis are stuck between the historically inevitable and the politically impossible. So far, the negotiations have been stagnated for so many years now. Israel, with this government, the settler governments are, grabbing land, what we call creeping annexation, building more settlements, and making life very difficult for our people, not only in the West Bank, but also in East Jerusalem. Houses are going to be demolished in East Jerusalem, an ethnic cleansing process is going on, the building of the apartheid wall continues, and the grabbing of land and expanding the settlements on areas is still continuing, with no checks and balances. The United States is now busy with the internal elections. The Arab world is totally divided, factorized. Of course, the EU has always had its difficulties. We could never rely on the EU to be a substitute as a gavel holder for the peace process, because every time we talk about, the EU taking the lead in the peace process, they say, no, we can't, because this is the Americans' turf, or what we can do just, help economically in sustaining the. I say, Palestinians don't need the help of the EU financially, because, that means you are sustaining occupation. We need our political rights, we need our political freedom, we need our independent state. We don't need money. Because if Israel, that is controlling us still, and we are under occupation, regardless of the Oslo Agreement, is not being shouldered with the responsibility of 5 million people. Who is paying the bill? The EU. And then the Americans, and then some of the Arab world. Of course, we don't rely on the continuous subsistence of funding coming from the Arab world, because it is totally tied under the hegemony of the United States. Many Saudis, many Qataris, they say, what is $1 billion to save Jerusalem? It's nothing. But they cannot pump that money in, because they are controlled by the Americans. And the Americans are controlled by the AIPAC, by the Israeli lobby. So it boils down, basically, to a third party that is handicapped in promoting the peace process, but as well giving the chance for Israel to nurture as a vulture on conflict by exacerbating the current situation. And the current situation, which is, total instability, dire economic conditions, helplessness, no job opportunities, and what is happening today is there is a movement of the youth dissatisfaction. The humiliation have prompted these youths to take action into their hands. So it's not the PLO that is directing what's happening today in the occupied territories, and it's not the political factions who are claiming that, these youngsters are doing, these heroic deeds, in attacking soldiers, stabbing them here and there. But it's the youth themselves who are committing what I call political suicide. That alone, they know when they go to do such a thing that they are going to die. Because their options are no more there. They cannot look for a brighter future. There's no horizon for any kind of political resolution to this conflict. So, what do we have to do? To prompt this. We need the international community to be more supportive and to try to recognize the state of Palestine, not only in the General Assembly of the United Nations, but in the Security Council. And that's why, our strategy has been peaceful resistance to occupation. I always believe that there will never be a military solution to this conflict. This is a protracted conflict between two epistemic communities that have been fighting each other for the last 100 years. Israel has won major wars in the Middle East, but in the final analysis, it did not bring stability, neither security to its own citizens. And it will never get that kind of stability and security when it is acting with a siege mentality like a pariah state, claiming to be democratic, yet it is an occupying power. And that's why occupation should end. And now, if we look, one of the longest modern occupation today is the occupation of Palestine. This problem has been going on since the 19th century, the latter part of the 19th century. And today it is a shame we are in the 21st century and still we cannot find plausible solutions to this protracted conflict. When we keep on claiming that there is no partner to the conflict, I mean, that is a way coping out from shouldering the responsibilities. We know very well that the PLO has accepted the state of Israel back in 1988 and has accepted 78% of Palestine to be the state of Israel. So we don't have any problems in recognizing the state of Israel. But the problem is when Israel still clings to 61% of the remaining 22% of Palestine, which is the settlements and the built-up area, that could not give the Palestinians the chance to form a geographic contiguous entity called Palestine. When the major West Bank is divided into 3 clusters, like a Swiss cheese with no geographic contiguity, when Jerusalem is totally isolated by the E1 land settlements, and when Gaza is totally separated from the West Bank, the only corridor is through Israel to connect the West Bank with Gaza, then what is a two-state solution means when we cannot really geographically have that two-state solution. I think I'm saying all these things because Tony Benn used to say these things. Tony Benn was a realist. He understood the political realist. He was, of course, he had his own beliefs of how to resolve basically this conflict. He never attacked Israel per se. He never attacked the Israelis. He, as a matter of fact, championed the concept of democracy, but he was a fair person. He talked about the fairness of 2 people. And he used to say, you guys, you are doomed to coexist. You better like it or not. So the nuclear threat of Iran does not only threaten Israel, he used to say, but it threatens also Palestine. Because, this small piece of land, which is considered to be the Holy Land, I'm 60 years old now. I haven't seen except violence, except conflict in what I call the cursed land. If it was holy, we should have been living in peace and harmony. It is so unfortunate that the city of Jerusalem, the old city where I come from, has never had peace for so many centuries with all the invasions that we have in that part of the world. And now if we have the chance to coexist, to cohabitate, to live in conviviality in this great holy city of Jerusalem, why not giving the chance? When do people make concessions, ladies and gentlemen? When they are at the crescendo of power. You don't make concessions when you are weak. You make concessions when you are strong in order to sustain that kind of peace in the future. And this is the time when Israel has the time now to choose whether to be a full-fledged nation-state in the Middle East, accept the Arab Peace Initiative, which is giving recognition to the state of Israel in lieu of recognizing the state of Palestine, open trade fair system, be integrated in what I call the new Middle East, rather than continue with the siege mentality, with the fortress mentality, with the pariah state, with this obsession that there are 1.8 billion Muslims who are threatening the security of Israel, when they are always in obsession that 59 Muslim countries are ready, to attack and annihilate the state of Israel. Our answer to them is very simple. The 59 countries, including Iran and Saudi Arabia, are willing to have peace with Israel through the Arab Peace Initiative, which was declared in 2002 in the Beirut Arab Summit, ready on the table. Since 2002, almost 14 years, we did not see any reaction, neither from Israel nor from the United States of America. So this is, I think, the last opportunity. If Israel continues with its belligerency, I think it has chosen the path of conflict. And I tell you, it does not really look good on Israel 20 years down the track. Because the contradictions that we are facing today, and as Mushtaq told about the insecurities, the instabilities, and the need for peace today is not going to continue for 20 years in the interest of Israel. Israel now is trying to capitalize on the contradictions of regional politics and what have you. But the Arabs are not going to continue to be divided. and these regimes are not going to continue there. Daesh is not going to continue in controlling the situation. Palestinians are going to be united. The reconciliation is coming forward. The Arabs will be united, and the Muslims will be united at one time. America is not going to continue to be the unipolar police of the world. We've seen now the rise of Russia coming back, China, India, and what have you. So it's no more a monopoly of one unipolar power. And I think Israel cannot continue to be safe and sound if it denies the rights of the Palestinians. So I see it coming 20 years down the pipeline. It's only a matter of time. I always say, this is the opportune time when you are at the peak of power, make that kind of concession. And we Palestinians, we do believe that whether sooner or later, I'm not an optimist, neither a pessimist, but I must say, I am hopeful. And because I am hopeful, I can see, maybe not in my lifetime, but in the lifetime of my sons, to have, peace with Israel, one country, believing in democracy, open trade system, coexist, because there is no other way for people to move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you very much. On 6th of May 2004, a friend of mine organized a meeting in Wilson Green, Pakistan Center. And I asked Tony Benn, it is a May Day, please join us. So he said, fine. He came to that meeting, and whole meeting was conducted in Urdu. So on page 364 of his book, he has mentioned that book. He said, I was sitting there and looking at Mushtaq, and when Mushtaq smiled, I smiled. When Mushtaq clapped, I clapped. And then he said, a gentleman came in, and he said, Mushtaq said he's going to read a poetry. And it was amazing that he read all the poem in English. So he has put that poem into this book. The writer of that poem is with us. He's Executive Committee member of Third World Solidarity, a great writer, filmmaker, producer, and many other things. Can I invite Mahmood Jamal to read us that poem, You and Me? Mahmood Jamal. Yeah, please come here. Yes, that people can see.
I just want to say what His Excellency the Palestinian ambassador said, that it's very difficult to resist.
I know.
I mean, he just forces you into situations. I'm not a public speaker or a politician even. I'm a writer and a poet. So what happens is that it was a great honor for me to meet Tony Benn. And Mushtaq also persuaded me to accompany them to Bradford on a trip. So I had a good chance to have a conversation with Tony Benn. That was wonderful because I think in celebrating his life, of course, we celebrate his great ability to communicate with people of all kinds. And people who are great in that way, their spirit lives on. It inspires us because we learn from them so many different aspects of life, not just about politics, but about the way they relate to people. So in that sense, I found him an amazingly warm person. And of course, his ideas were a guiding principle for many of us. So what had happened that I had written this poem in response to in response to the 9/11 incident. It turned out that Eventually this poem became my statement against extremism of any kind. Although it was addressed initially in one direction, it now applies in many different directions. So I just read you the poem, and only one thing comes to mind, that Tony Benn was fervently opposed to the Iraq invasion. And there was a meeting held at the Kensington Town Hall. And the thing that I will not forget is that he was chairing the meeting, I think. Mushtaq, is that correct? And Mushtaq had asked me to read this poem. And I read this same poem. And then I was sitting right at the back of the hall, about 50 rows back. And suddenly Tony Benn got up from his chair. I didn't realize what was happening. And he came walking down all the 50 stairs, and he came, sat next to me and said, "Congratulations." And this is quite an amazing thing to do in the middle of this huge meeting. So, anyway, I remember him as a wonderful human being. So this is the poem I had written at the time and recited twice. It's called You and I. You want to speak of war, I want to speak of peace. You say punish, I say forgive. You speak of God's wrath, I speak of His mercy. Your Quran is a weapon, my Quran is a gift. You speak of the Muslim Brotherhood, I speak of the Brotherhood of Man. You like to warn others, I like to welcome them. You like to speak of hell, I like to speak of heaven. You talk of lamentation, I talk of celebration. You worship the law, I worship the divine. You want silence, I want music. You want death, I want life. You speak of power, I speak of love. You search out evil, I walk to the good. You dream of the soul, I sing of the rose petal. You say the world is a desert, I say the world is a garden. You prefer the plain, I prefer the adorned. You want to destroy, I want to build. You want to go back, I want to move forward. You are busy denying, I am busy affirming. Yet there might be one thing on which we see eye to eye. You want justice, so do I.
Thank you very much, Mahmood Jamal sir. It is always a pleasure to hear you. I know you were busy and you were editing your new film. You have just done a new film which will be launched very soon. It is based on Shakespeare play Mayer for Mayer, and in Urdu he has done it Rahm, which means forgiveness. So I think it is all recorded and it is going through the editing side of it, and he is editing it. Thank you very much for coming. Let's once again welcome him, and what he has read we all agree with. Councillor, thank you very much for coming. She is a councillor of Westminster Council and good worker for peace. Just another small announcement, because Iraq has been mentioned many times. On 12th of April this year, we are holding a meeting on Iraq, update from Iraq. Two Iraqis who are now trade unionists, one is teacher in United Kingdom, another one is democratic movement, part of democratic movement of Iraq, are going to come and speak on that meeting. It is next door in Boothright Room at 6 o'clock, so you are all welcome. Tony Benn, as Ambassador said, always said that if we want peace in this world, it cannot be achieved through one country or two countries or five countries. It has to be achieved by all countries of the world. So let's strengthen the United Nations. And that was one of his missions, and I'm going to continue on that as well. I know His Excellency Ambassador Wajid Shmsul, when he was appointed first time ambassador by Benazir Bhutto, last time he shared some of his memories with Tony Benn and the message which Benazir Bhutto, Prime Minister of Pakistan, gave him when he was coming here. Can I request him to say a few words and share a few thoughts with us. Ambassador Wajid Shmsul.
My Lord, Mushtaq, friends, as Mushtaq said, I did not know Tony Benn when I came here, but my preliminary introduction was done by Benazir leader of Pakistan. In my first briefing with her, when I was appointed High Commissioner by her, she said, you must meet, there's a great man, you must meet Tony Benn. And you will find that whatever we talk about socialism, equality, justice, human rights, he is rather a prophet of that. So it was my responsibility and duty to come when I came here to meet and call on Tony Benn. And the greatest thing that I found about him was that within a few minutes, it appeared that we had known each other for a long time. Although he was much senior to me in age, but he was so affectionate and so considerate that despite my faults and failings, he listened to me and he discussed various things with me, global things, Pakistan, India, Kashmir, Palestine. And he said something which reverberates in my ears. He said, you know, there is a mother of all evils, there is a mother of disputes going on in the world, and that is Palestine, which was came into a Balfour Declaration, 1922, I think it was. And ever since then, it is the source of all problems. And you will see that history, our future history will revolve around this problem. And today when I look back, and when I look now, I see every problem that we have today, whether it is Libya, whether it is Iraq, whether it is Afghanistan, or Kashmir, it's all due to injustice and denial of right of self-determination to the people. And that is what Tony Benn taught me in 1994. He was a man of many facets, very learned. I think I have not found a man as learned as him in my life. He was very capable. And the best part of him was his humanity, his humane nature. He was there wherever there was a cause, a losing cause, a cause that had not many friends, but he was always there to support it. I've seen him how he used to carry around when the war was on, he was all there, Million Mars and all that, and he was there. I remember him addressing Kashmir. We had a fringe meeting somewhere, and Tony Benn was there talking about Kashmir and why it should be resolved and why peace is essential for world to progress, world to alleviate the sufferings of humankind. Because everywhere, if you look back and if you look around, you will see that people, hundreds and thousands of people die every day because of want of medicine, food, no sustenance, nothing. It's all because of unequal distribution of wealth. We believe that it is because of the inequitable distribution of wealth that things have not improved in the world. So whatever he said has remained a sort of make it light for us all, people who believe in those values that Tony Benn all his life fought for and made him great. As the Mushtaq said earlier that we are celebrating his life today. I tell you, men like him are not born every day, they're born in centuries. And whatever little we will learn from him, it will be great for humanity. So thank you very much for that.
I think it is very important to continue with his work, and we will do definitely. I'm aiming that next year we will have a memorial lecture on his either death anniversary or his birth, which are very near to each other. He died on 14th of March and his birthday is 3rd of April. So let's see what we do next year, and I will be looking for your support. I can see some new faces here today, and I'm very pleased with that. If you can look at our website, there is a membership form, get involved. We do a lot of events, and next year, from 11th of April, which is our 30th anniversary, we will be doing a lot of events from Palestine to Kashmir, other lectures. I think on 11th of September we are doing a big event on another world is possible. When we say another world, more peaceful, more equal, more just world, which we are all working for. So I think it is very important. Then on 16th of November we are having a very important meeting, and today there are some people from media, and I'm very pleased and thankful to them to come. The meeting will be titled Role of Media in a Democracy, because we were discussing Kashmir issue today and a couple of days back, and I think it was mentioned that media can take issues very high and media can really destroy the issues. And so I think there are a lot of events which are coming up next year, so I will be very pleased if you can keep us informed that you are interested in it. I've got another gentleman who is running a very big event called Emma Awards. He's a founder of it. He's a journalist in profession, Boby Syed, and I know Tony Benn attended one of your awards as well. Do you want to say something?
Oh yes, thank you. Lords, Your Excellency, and of course friends, staff and friends here as well. Thank you very much for asking me to say a few words. I met Tony Benn when I was 15 years old. I'm originally from South London, it's where I grew up from. And the consistency of his humanity throughout his life, I've been very fortunate enough to meet him on several occasions based upon his work, based upon his humanity, based upon his knowledge. And I not only met him when I was 15 and I admired him, and he was very much a role model to me, but I was very fortunate enough to also meet him at his house when Ahmed at the time, Professor Ahmed, I should say, was working on the Jenna film. And we went there to do some extensive research on the film itself. So it's very warm, very welcoming. And you do find a lot about that person when you visit the house. His collections of books are phenomenal. And so he's a very learned person. I also was very fortunate enough to interview him on my talk show. Very fortunate to have him at my Emerald Awards as well. He was actually one of the public figure for us at that time. Apparently I was criticised for giving awards to white people. As a Muslim, I find that quite bizarre. But there were a set of like, why is a white person getting an award? Which itself is quite bizarre. But if he symbolised that there's no colour in humanity, there is a genuine spirit and a general reflection upon our common humanity. And if there's any man that I know of, since I was 15 all the way up to having a conference at SOAS, for example, not so long ago after the London riots, to ensure that there was a sense of social cohesion, a sense of togetherness, and to ensure that the Olympic Games that we were planning to have at that time, the Multicultural Olympics, was a success. So I'm very fortunate enough to know him, and of course, we've all got our memories, whether you've met him or you haven't met him. His spirit is so powerful, and it's so, how can I put it, it has reflection of humanity within inside his work, and within inside his essence as a human being. He still lives with us today, and I'm very fortunate to be someone who's met him. And I'm also very fortunate to be there when they had that 1 million people's march for the Iraq War, where he and everybody else stood up and said, this war is wrong, illegal, and it's going to have consequences that we're all living with today. So thank you very much for allowing me to say a few words. Thank you very much.
The Million March was on 15th of March 2003, and I think most of us who were around attended that march. It was in Hyde Park, and whole London was standstill, all ages, from children to very old people, and everybody was there. From 1986 to 2014, whenever Third World Solidarity held a meeting, Tony Benn was always there. He will make sure that he attends the meeting, and we do a lot of activities. I think most of you know that Third World Solidarity does dozens of meetings every year, and he was always there, sometimes as a speaker, sometimes he will come and attend. He will sit in the last row, he will say, Mushtaq, today I am not your speaker. But when Tony Benn is sitting there, you can understand everybody wants him to speak. I am very lucky to have other people who have supported Third World Solidarity for many years. One of them is our next speaker, and once he has spoken, I will open it to everybody and anybody who want to say something about Tony Benn for 20 minutes, and then we will conclude the meeting. I think I am expecting some people, other speaker as well, but you never know. This is a parliament and people come and go, and they come for a few minutes, but I'm very thankful to Radham who has come early and he stayed with us. But you can see a picture here, which is in House of Commons on 20th of January 2009. We invited Grimond before his death. He was on wheelchair and he came and he spoke, and you can see, although it is very dark, but you can see it on our website as well, that Grimond is sitting, then the Member of Parliament from Bolton, and then myself, and then Tony Benn is speaking. And he always came on time. He stayed all the times throughout the meeting and spoke to the people. I have attended Durham Gala as well for past 11 years, and he attended that for 67 years. And he was always there. He will never speak, but he will come and sit on the stage at the end, and everybody is coming to take his autograph. I think these are the people we should remember, and we should try to follow them as well in our lives if we can. I know some senior people are sitting here from different political parties, and I will invite them to say a few words. But can I now invite the Vice Chairman, President of APPG on Kashmir, Vice Chairman of APPG on Third World Solidarity, First Muslim Lord Ahmed of Rotherham, to say a few words.
Mushtaq Lasharire Sahib, Your Excellency, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I just remember as a young man, as a young socialist, someone who used to go to the Labour Party's annual conferences, that there was a fantastic rally at the conference, and that was the rally from, it was a socialist rally, where all the main speakers from the left of the party used to gather with all the trade union and branch officers, and it was a big event. And I used to go and listen to many speakers, including, of course, Tony Benn. My last, I suppose, sitting with him was something that Mahmood Saab mentioned, and also Mushtaq Lasharire mentioned, was when he went to Bradford. And on the way, I couldn't make it to Bradford. I said, I will meet you for lunch. And at services, we met and we had lunch together. And so, but he, as you know, that he was an aristocrat. And everybody's talked about him being second Viscount Stansgate. Of course, his 47 years in Parliament. I remember watching a program on TV where he said that he was member of the cabinet, in Wilson's cabinet, and he was in search of power. He said he was a minister, but he didn't see any power. He was a member of Parliament, and he didn't see any power, and he was in search of power, and that's why I think when he said that he was leaving Parliament to spend more time for politics. And everybody's mentioned this demonstration against the war. I also remember that in February 2003, when he went to Iraq and met with Saddam Hussein, I went to Iraq and I went to Baghdad. I didn't meet with Saddam Hussein, but I met with Tariq Aziz. And the whole idea was that all of us in the left, or the left of the party, or those people who were opposed to the war, and of course you know that Tony Benn was the chairman of the Labour Party, but also chairman of the organization against the war from 2001 to the Stop the War Coalition from 2001 to 2014. And he was consistent. He was talking about, if you, some of you will have seen this video of his speech in the House of Commons, where Jeremy Corbyn and other people are sitting behind him, and he argues and he he's asking for reasons why people want to go to war, and in fact now we know the truth why these weapons of mass destruction and everything else that we were told they were not there, and in fact what people did not predict, but only those who were asking, who were calling for peace, said that you are good at making war, you are good at destroying, but you're not good at building. And a country that has been destroyed, Iraq, and today, people are asking for reasons, and sometimes I just do not know what to say to them. When, for instance, let me give you an example of Libya, and I'll come back to Iraq. I was in Libya when the bombing was taking place. I was making the argument to say that if you destroy Libya, you get rid of the regime as it is. I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that you should keep them. But if you get rid of them, there will be tribe against tribe fighting, and you will divide this country, you will create a chaos, and you will create a country which you will not be able to govern. Even President Obama is now saying what a mess that they made of Libya. Similarly, in Iraq, we destroyed Iraq, but then that trained army of Saddam Hussein and those people who run the country, we pushed them out of Baghdad. We pushed them out of power, and we handed it over to, yes, they were majority, yes, but they were not people who had any experience of running the country. And what happened when you isolate people, when you take them out of power and you don't give them anything, then of course they tried, and I'm just going to try and explain this, because a lot of people, when they're talking about ISIS and Daesh, they want to know who they are. And some, because it suits them to say, oh, these are Islamic. They have nothing to do with Islam. Well, everybody says that, but let me explain. These are Ba'athist, socialist, these are Saddamist people. And they tried to actually set up their own government in the north when they were pushed out. Nobody wanted them. So the only way you could get the traditional tribes of Iraq to support them was in the name of Islam. Use Islam as a force to get them support, and also get the ordinary people to have some confidence in them. And I think, when we talk about Tony Benn and many other people who marched on that day in March 2003, this is exactly what we were warning, and we were saying that there were many type of quotations done on that day, that you cannot force, you cannot bomb people into peace. And if you bomb people into peace, then you will only get destruction, and you will only get what you have in front of you today. So I think he was a great man, a socialist, and in fact, some people have written, I was going through Google today, and they said that he became more left-wing after holding ministerial office. This is very rare, because I think he realized that there are other people, this ministerial position that he had didn't have any power. He couldn't do the things that he wanted to do about fairness, about equality, justice, all the things that socialist people on the left believed in. And so therefore, he wanted to spend more time on politics, and he was going around the country addressing Stop the War Coalition every week and every month. So we will remember him. I think that these are not unique Tony Benn's beliefs. These are beliefs of socialists and good human beings. Tony Benn was a great man, and we should remember him, and we should also support all those people who stand on their principles, because during their life we sometimes ignore them. After their death, we try to remember and we say lots of things, but we should also remember people when they're in their, when they're talking about these principles at that time, that these are principles that we should live by, and we should not let, and I think one thing Tony Benn always talked about was these multi-billion companies, whether they were arms producing companies or whether it was the bankers or whether it was the oil and gas companies and those people who had their stakes and their interests, because they're the ones who want to, I think the Palestinian ambassador was talking about, you know, there are certain countries, and he mentioned Israel, who wants to perpetuate, who wants to see the struggle and also war and also violence, because that's how they survive. And there are companies and there are individuals who make more money and also survive in the same way. Thank you very much.
Nasira, so I always say that it is in Urdu, but I will translate it because a lot of people will not understand it. That hum murda prast hain. We always remember the people and go and celebrate them when they are tired. When they are living and they are working, you don't give them the proper respect they deserve. But we are working for it, and we will definitely recognize the people who are working. Thank you very much. I wanted to welcome before I open it, and then I will ask her to speak. We have been joined, and she has already said that she will be late, so it is not her fault. We were waiting for her. Retired Judge of Lahore High Court, Justice Nasira Iqbal, who is the daughter of Allama Iqbal. She is going to speak, and her lecture on situation of Pakistan will be next week on Sunday in YMCA, when we will be remembering another gentleman who died a few years back, Risaluddin. So we will attend that as well. But can I open it, before I open it to everybody who wants to? Yes, I'm coming to you, Manuel Hssassian, but you have...
You will have to. Oh, Lord Nadir will have to. He will defend my rights.
Can I say, you keep quiet, you came late, and you immediately start raising your... we have a very senior activist for democracy and equality from Pakistan, the leader of PTI, Asim Shah with us. Would you like to say a few words on... you can come here. I think we are responsible.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, the Sharista, Lord, Your Excellency. It's quite a great gathering to be here. I think from what I've heard and from the Palestinian ambassador as well, I remember Tony Benn as I was growing up in the dusty streets of Pakistan. In Pakistan, there were a lot of things were happening in the 80s and in the 90s as well. A country which is a nuclear nation is still developing as well with all its issues and challenges. So the first thing we would get information about Mr. Tony Benn was, while I was learning about different things, about the politics, about the global issues, and everything that revolves around Americas and the conflict. So I would get books, so we would find snippets in newspapers about Mr. Benn. We used to think that, okay, people in Pakistan, we have these issues and we are actually fighting, providing the voice for that change. Obviously, Palestinian issues, then the Iraq came, the Afghanistan wars as well, and everything, all the things that are carried from the past. But what is going on in England? England is the first world country. Britain is the first world country. They have been the giants. The story of the imperialism, the British Raj. What is going on there? Why this person called Tony Benn is voicing so ferociously his beliefs and his support for the third world initiatives and major issues. Major issues that make Tony Benn, the Tony Benn we are here today talking about it. And there were a series of things. Lasharire sir mentioned when I came back to England. I remember the Millions March. I attended that as well, and I had the honor of meeting Tony Benn once in one of those protests that were going on. But ultimately, I think he was very clear as a man, as a humanist, as many have said. The person, he knew his purpose, a purpose as a human being. What must he say, what must he believe in? And he had the conviction as well. And the combination of that, and considering the background he came from and the background he relinquished, and he became the voices of those issues from the third world, from anywhere around the world. I think it was a great moment in time to actually witness people of his stature that actually brought all of us together. We may have different upbringings, we may have different education as well, but there was one common thing that actually binded us all together. That this man, if he can stand up, then why can't we stand up? Why can't we take responsibility for our own destiny and for our own actions as well? There are thousands of millions of people across the world who haven't met Tony Benn. But the Tony Benn words, Tony Benn's work, and everything which Mr. Lasharire, the Third World Solidarity, and all these things, that there's little initiatives. I used to think that all these men gather here in House of Commons and House of Lords, and what exactly do they do? I mean, as a young person, what really does? I mean, there's a debate going on, there's a dialogue going on, it gets printed in the media. What goes on then? But over the years, when you start interacting with those, the learned people, the people who have spent their lives, you start to realize that actually every single thing, whether it's a word, whether it's an argument, whether it's a debate, as long as you stand for what is right, it gets to people. I mean, today there are people sitting here from different nationalities. We have different colors, but our issues are the same. We do want our voices heard. We do want the issues of the world to be taken care in a manner which actually, that's the spirit that should be. United Nations that represents the combination of those nations, that should be strengthened. Wars is not a solution. We have seen, I remember Tony Blair actually saying that, well, we will build Afghanistan, and then the others said the same as well. Afghanistan was never built. Afghanistan was destroyed totally. Middle East, Iraq was destroyed totally as well. It's not just the wars that destroy, but it's the policies as well. The policies, whether it's the corporate sector, whether it's the government sector, those people, the policies are always with a view to just for the minority of the people and their interests, but the majority gets ignored, gets forgotten. And Tony Benn is the ultimate hero of those voices, of that struggle. And it's a great honor for me to be standing here amongst you all and to say a few words. I remember going back in history, and I'll finish on that. I'm sure Lord Ahmed and many of you have remember Lord Thomas More and the story of Henry VIII. In the end, I'm not going to go into details or anything like that, but the man who stood for his convictions, the man who believed that what is right and what is wrong, and even the king could not convince him. The king, the Henry VIII, who had the ultimate power, and he pushed him into corners in his family, and he followed through all the trials and tribulations of going from at that position to the bottom. And in the end, the famous words were that I love you, my king, but God is first. And on that story, then the German dramatist Brecht, he wrote a very famous play, A Man for All Seasons. And I think Tony Benn deserves to be labeled as Man for All Seasons. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Asim. Now can I ask Naheed, Hayat, Secretary General of Former Secretary General of UK People's Party, to say a few words.
Thank you very much. It is indeed an honor to be standing, Madam, आपका बहुत इंतजार था, and your Lord Lordship and Janab Wajid Saab and all distinguished guests. Mushtaq Saab said, I represent Pakistan People's Party, which is the party of left, and obviously, naturally, Tony Benn was very close to Benazir Bhutto Sahib, whose party I represent. As a student of politics who believes in politics of left, he was always an inspiration to me. Obviously, Benazir Bhutto was my inspiration first because she was a woman, first Prime Minister of Pakistan, and then following in her footsteps, I came to England. I joined Labour Party after 9/11 incident and after Iraq Hex, and I was totally inspired by Tony Benn, and that's why I joined the Labour Party. His speech about Iraq war is a textbook speech. It is for any student of politics to listen to and then be inspired by. Every word he spoke has stood the test of time and has become true. I beg to differ with my brother Mushtaq Lasharire that we celebrate people when they die. I think Tony Benn's life was celebrated as well. He was a beacon of hope. He was a beacon of justice, fairness. When he died, as earlier on Honourable Ambassador said, Palestine lost a friend, and somebody who also believes in the cause of Palestine and speaks quite passionately about their rights. I felt that Tony Benn left Palestine as an orphan child. Nobody has filled that vacuum still. I do not see any other politician of his stature taking up that cause. Therefore, I don't want to say many things, but one thing which was that mostly when we become politicians, we lose our humanity, but he always retained it. Along with that, he was a very funny man. His speeches are very amusing, and that is something is also rare in politicians. So with that, I would like to just say thank you very much.
Before Manuel Hssassian, can I ask anybody else who has something to say? Anybody? John, Carol? You? Manuel Hssassian.
Excellency, Member of the House of Lords, the famous Lord Nadir Ahmed.
Lord Nadir Ahmed and all those who are present here. It is my privilege to be here today to celebrate the life of Tony Benn, because surely it was a life to be celebrated. And I particularly empathize with his views because I think he shared the views of Allama Iqbal. And one of Allama Iqbal's famous verses, I've translated, he said, "Utho meri duniya ke garibon ko jaga lo, kafe umra ke daro diwar hila do." Wake up and wake the poor and the downtrodden of this world and shake the foundations of the palaces of the rich and the elite. And that is the vision that was shared also by Tony Benn. And he gave up his life of aristocracy and elitism to be a man of the people. And he championed their cause in Parliament for 47 years. And as far as human rights go, we know that he championed the cause of Palestinians, of the people of Iraq. In fact, he managed a much larger movement and a gathering here in London that we could muster in our part of the world. And today I'm so happy to see that there are so many people present here to celebrate his life from third world countries, because they see how he supported their problems and their rights, because he stood for human rights across the board, not only in the United Kingdom, and he was basically against neo-imperialism, which is something that we are experiencing today. I think if he had been here today, he would have definitely criticized what had been happening to so many people with policies where they are taken to genocide, and certainly would not stand some of the human rights violations in China, which have taken those up too. And I think that Jeremy Corbyn has a lot to gain from the image that he has left the party. The party today stands tall because of him, and if it succeeds, I think it would be his image which has been taking them forward during this time, because he promoted human rights worldwide and he wanted to have justice through dialogue, not through wars. In fact, I remember his famous saying that that if we can find the money to wage wars and kill people, we can find the money to help people and save lives. Thank
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It was very brief, and I hope you people will be able to join us on 20th of March in YMCA, where Huma Price is organizing an event.
Indian YMCA, Fitzroy Square, 20th of March, 6 p.m.
Yeah.
See you there, Ahmed.
Yeah. Thank you very much. To conclude the meeting, and I think, is there anybody who want to say something? No?
Yes.
Yeah, so very brief, please. Not as long as obviously we have heard.